Hi, I'm Jeanne Fiorini. Thanks for joining the Tarot Tips. Today we're going to talk about something that comes from my new Tarot Spreads and Layouts book. Something that people seem to be interested in talking more about, and that's the little section in the beginning of the book where I'm talking about ways to approach your reading, things to think about before you even start to ask your questions, and that is the things that are tarot no-nos, things that you really need to be avoiding. Now, different readers, different practitioners have differing thoughts on this area, this notion about what's okay and what's not okay to ask. I do have a pretty strong opinion about it, so I'm going to call it like I see it, and you can do what you want with the idea. The blanket rule of thumb here is to not ask questions, to specifically avoid questions in your tarot session that don't involve around situations that don't directly involve you. Now, this gets a little tricky because we're connected to so many people in so many different ways, but I like to call that any question that's invasive, that is stepping on somebody's right to privacy, something that kind of, at the basis of the question, is rather an impolite question or is simply a question of bad manners. Don't ask it. I like to call this looking into somebody else's underwear drawer. It's not something we like it when people do to us, and so there's a boundary issue there, there's a respect of privacy issue there. So some questions that fall into this very blatant, impolite, rude, and bad manners category are questions such as, what's going on with my ex-husband and his new girlfriend? How does the neighbor make more money than me? Where did my sister come up with the cash to buy that new car? Okay, these are things that don't impact your life. These are things that are none of our business. So we need to stay out of those things. That's the very blatant. Those are the very blatant examples. We can, though, get into a gray area with the rule of thumb about things that don't directly involve us. Questions such as, let's say your child is in a relationship that you find questionable, and you as the parent have concerns about that. Let's say that the question is about maybe a relative or a friend who has a health problem. Again, it doesn't directly involve you. It might impact you to some degree, but it still is not your issue or your problem. Another thing that might fall into the gray area is if you have a boss or a coworker that you think might have an alcohol issue or a drug issue or some sort of addiction problem. This is something that might fall into the gray area. Now, I'm going to stick with the rule of thumb about don't ask a question that pries into somebody else's privacy. The way, though, that we can deal with this is to first check your motivation. Why am I asking that question? Is it out of idle curiosity? Or is there some way that I think I might be able to help that person? Whether it's in the daughter or the child scenario who's in a questionable relationship, or the person with a health issue, or the boss or coworker with a potential addiction issue. What is your motivation for asking the question about them? If there's something that you think you can do, then this then now connects us to the idea of what's the real question. The real question is, sometimes in this gray area, if it's about idle curiosity, you just need to leave it alone. If your question is, how can I help them? What might they need from me? Or even the more real generic way, but it puts it in your responsibility and in the camp of something that involves you, is the question, what do I need to know about that situation? And by phrasing the question that way, you put the responsibility for any actions in your camp. The question is focused on you and the situation, not necessarily the people involved in the situation. So if the motivation has some caring, some maybe I will get involved with this, maybe I won't, maybe there's something I can do to help someone, then consider rephrasing the question. If your motivation is just because I want to know, forget it, leave it alone. It's bad manners and I think bad karma. You don't want anybody poking around in your business. It's not okay to be poking around in theirs. The bottom line here is that we use lots of metaphors for the tarot, and one of my favorite one is that it's a power tool. It's a tool that can help you access information that isn't readily available in our consciousness. Sometimes I like to think of a tarot reading as a fishing expedition. You know, you cast your line out there, you set your intention, and you see what you get. So with any sort of a power tool, whether it's a chainsaw or a lawnmower or any other kind of heavy machinery, you have to use those things carefully. So when you pull out your tarot cards, remember that you're working with a powerful tool, and to use your tool with care and with mindfulness and respect for the privacy and the ability of other people to take care of the issues in the ways that are best for them. So, rule of thumb, don't ask any questions that don't directly involve or impact you. You have to be very careful and very intentional about how you address those sorts of issues. Okay, thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.